Are you surprised the LS460 is back on the rack again? I'm not. Let me show you what we're going to do. So we're going to check the transmission fluid, the WS sealed transmission. I'm not going to do a full fluid change on this. Basically what I want to do is check the level. So I don't know anything about the car. I don't know who did it last. I do know the transmission was replaced at some point at the dealership, so brand new trans. I'm assuming they got the fluid level right, but we shall see. So if you remember, the trans has to be at a certain operating temperature. I believe 120 to 130 degrees. Don't quote me on that. There's another way to do this with the brake pedal and the shifter, but I got to extreme, so I'm just going to do it this way. So let me get this load and then get to the value. Alright, so here we are. I've got a T30 Torx. This is actually a 5mm, but this works too. We're right at about 130 degrees. So what we should get out of here is like a slow trickle from what I understand, and it looks like we're overfilled quite a bit. So just want to check the quality of this fluid. It's like a paper towel or something like. Yeah, it's kind of brownish. It's still semi-translucent, but I think it would benefit from a flush for sure. So let me get this out of here. And we're actually at 138 degrees, so it's a little bit warmer than you want to be. I'm going to let it cool down back down to the 120s, and we'll see if we still get that amount out when it's about 10 degrees cooler. If we do, this thing's definitely overfilled. This is only supposed to be trickling out of here. So let me wait, and then we'll do that, and then we'll continue on with some new fluid. We need a very specific temperature window. We're looking for 95 degrees to 108 degrees on the LS460 rear-wheel drive. So too high of a temperature, you might get too much fluid out and you will not get an accurate reading. Too low a temperature, it might be below the port that spills the fluid out. So once we get into that range, I'm going to start the car. We're going to open the nut, the bolt, drain, whatever, and then we are going to just let it drain to a trickle. If there's nothing that comes out, it's underfilled. If there's more that comes out, it's overfilled. This is what we need for the fill plug on the trans. This is a very thin 24mm socket, and this isn't really a thin ratchet, but it's a thinner ratchet. This barely fits in between the trans and the chassis, just enough to pop it loose. Then you'll have to use your fingers to take the bolt out. That's on the other side. I'll show you that when we get to that point. But on this one, I'm not going to use the transmission cooler lines. I'm simply going to do a drain out of this bolt and then a fill, which is probably going to be about 3 or 4 quarts. I'm happy with that on this car because, like I said, the transmission has been replaced, so I assume the fluid is newer. By newer, I mean 25 to 30,000 miles potentially. So we'll see what comes out of it, and we'll wait for that temperature. So in between the driver's side exhaust pipe and the transmission pan, you'll see a small bolt. Sometimes it says oil on the front of it, right here where my finger is. And you'll see how tight of a fit this is. Basically there's some padding, sound insulation, and you can just get the socket on there with the wrench. And so what I recommend doing is using this to pop it loose, and you may or may not be able to even get it back off, because that's how tight of a fit it is. Like two turns, maybe one turn, if any, because we're pretty well stuck. There we go. That's about it. That's all you get. So now we can barely get our hand up here and then spin the bolt the rest of the way off. And there should be a washer here, maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, it's an O-ring on the fill plug here. And this one does say WS, not oil. So with that out, oops, you should be able to then install your 90-degree fill assembly or your fill adapter for your pump, or you can just use, this is a terrible angle here, or you can use just hose if you're going to feed it down inside the engine bay and then kind of end up here. That works too. But for a lift, if you have a lift, obviously it's easier if you use the pump. So let me see if I can even get this started. It is just such a tight fit in here. I don't even know if I can get this threaded on. Oh man, it's difficult. Yeah, that's hard. Let me get that on. Try to get it on. I'm gonna have to feed a little hose up there. So since that is not gonna work, the tool or the pump actually comes with a bunch of fittings. So this is just a 90-degree tube, and then you have a quick connect on the bottom for your pump. So you drop this in the hole and all is well. And you drop it again and it falls again. And that just clips on to, let me show you the pump in case you haven't seen it in my other videos. It's just a hand pump. You put your ATF in here, pump, and then it comes out of this end. So this is what we attach our 90-degree fitting to. It's like so, and then when we drain the trans fluid, we're using graduated cylinders so we know exactly how much comes out. And then we have a cylinder that's for clean ATF, and we put in the exact same amount. And then this gets poured into here, and then we pump it back in the fill hole. Any questions on that? Hope not. Now, if this gets drained at all and you're not catching all the fluid, or potentially maybe it was overfilled by whoever in the past, you don't know how much fluid is in here. You're just assuming it's correct. Now, the manual might say if you drain this bolt, 2.9 or 3.9 quarts might come out, and then you put that amount back in. Well, again, you still don't know for sure that the trans is at the correct level. So that's why it's important to use this check plug at the temperature range, 97 to 108 degrees or whatever. Open this up, see if anything comes out. If not, fill it until stuff dribbles out of here. Then you know you're perfectly at the right amount. So we're almost there, waiting for this temp to come down. The car was driven, so it's been sitting a few hours. It was at 147, I think, and now it's down to 113, so almost in that range where we can check it. Okay, we are at the magic 109 degrees, so I'm going to start the car up, and we are going to open the check valve. Okay, so don't be scared of this. It's not going to drain empty of oil. But here's what we're looking at. That's too much. It should only be trickling out of there if the level is correct. So whoever filled this, when they put the transmission in, they put a little too much in. Maybe half a cup or so of fluid. So we're gonna let this drain out, and yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little brown, as you can see, but this fluid should be it should be pink. I mean, it's only, like I said, 25 or 30,000 miles old. It's still clear though inside of the jug. So if you look on like the side of the jug, it's still kind of translucent. So here again, some foam, and that's about it. So that is the correct level of the trans. And this is about 5 ounces. So it's 5 ounces too much. Now what we're gonna do, and oh Jesus, yeah, you don't want to do that. So you want to plug this first apparently before you shut the car off, because we just absorbed another 4 ounces. Okay, well that's why it's important to follow directions. So we are gonna just snug this up a little bit. Now we have to keep in mind, there we go, we've got almost 10 ounces of fluid in here, and you know, it's brown, it's not red. So now we have to keep in mind that 10 ounces extra roughly after we drain the pan. So let me grab something to drain the pan. All right, so now you can see how this is getting a little bit tricky, because whoops, we accidentally spilled some more than we should have. And if you're not using a graduated cylinder, you don't really know how much exactly came out. So we're going to drain this, and we should expect, I don't know, 3 quarts, I think somebody said. 3 or 4 quarts. But we'll let that fill up and we'll find out. My other cars, the 430 and the GX 470, I didn't do it this method. I used the transmission lines and did the complete like 16 quart flush. But for this video, because I know the history on this transmission, I know it's only got however many, 30,000 or whatever I keep saying. So we'll be careful here so this doesn't go over. And we'll plan on it stopping around 70 ounces before we go to the next cylinder here. And also this way there's no, you're not going to potentially damage the trans or run out too much fluid because it's not running. Okay, that's pretty close. So 70, let's call it 70 ounces. Whoa. Plus whatever this is. I'll show you the actual contrast side by side with the fluids, and it looks much worse than it is. So we'll let this trickle out. I mean, we might get another 5-10 ounces out of here, and then we'll check in on the color of the fluid. So you can see the contrast of the fluid. I mean, this is obviously clear. It allows light through, and there's no contaminants or dirt in there. And then here we have the much darker fluid that doesn't allow any light through. And this is basically doing what it's supposed to do. It's just trapping and catching all the dirt, the contaminants, the wear, the tear, and that's what it's supposed to do. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad yet or burned or anything like that, but typically when I see fluid like this and I change it to new fluid, you definitely feel an improvement in shifting. You know, if there's any vibration in the torque converter, in low RPM, high load situations, it takes care of that. But primarily shifting, the speed and the fluidity of the shifting is greatly improved. This car has, right in between like the 1-2 shift, you'll get like it feels like a shaking. And I thought it was something else rotational, but I'm thinking it could have been the fluid, could be the torque converter, like right when it shifts into that next gear. So we'll see if it clears that up. But I'm not too concerned about that. So this is still finishing up here, and we have about 10 more ounces, so 80, let's call it about 80 ounces total. And So you know, you have no idea really, because some extra came out, so that's the problem. We need to account for that, and we'll see if it is 80 going back in the fill, and then we'll do the check plug again just so you can see that. But I'm going to fill up that other fluid on this side. Okay, I'm actually going to do one more drain. I let the car run for, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute or something, and went through all the gears, you know, waited for fluid to circulate. So I feel good with one more. I'm happy with that, just to get a little bit more fluid done than just the standard couple quarts. So you can see, yeah, it's still, you know, it's still discolored in there. So it's not like we're changing the same fluid we just put in, that's the thing. So whatever this goes up to, then we'll fill that. And yeah, we'll be done. So I'm guessing it's going to be about 70-80 ounces again, and then I'll fill it back up the same way. Alright, final check. I'm going to start the car, and then pull that plug, see where we're at. Fingers crossed. Should have a slow trickle coming out of here. If not, we've got to add. Alright, look at that. We're pretty close, a little bit overfilled. We just gotta wait for this to barely come out. So see what I mean? It's really difficult to judge how much you take out, how much you put in, if it was right to begin with, etc. So we want this a little bit slower. Almost there. Almost. You'll see if we add. I'm all out of the pump, but wondering where we are check-wise. Just as a reference. We're right at 108. So perfect temperature. It's right where we want to be. And we just want this to purge out, I guess. Still a little bit too much coming out of there too fast. So be patient. It's very important to get this just absolutely right, because too much and or too little, you're going to have potentially some transmission shifting issues, torque converter issues, just weird stuff, flaring. You might get flaring on shifts. So it's really important just to nail this down. What we want is like 1 drip per second or so. I think that's what it is. But for the other cars, that's kind of how I did it. Definitely not a stream, full-blown stream like this. You can see it's a little bit more red, less brown than it was before. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to wait for this to trickle down and come on back when it does. Alright, we're almost there. You see how we're getting drip, 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 drip like this? That's pretty much what you want. We can drain a little bit more out of here. But if you imagine the top of this tube, you know, is a wave of transmission fluid. That's why we're still getting some coming out of there, because there's just a lot going on inside the pan. See, drip, 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 drip. That's perfect. That is exactly what we want. Drip, drip, drip. That tells us that level is right to the tippy top of the tube. And we can shut the car off, clean everything up, put our fill plug back in, and we're done. Okay, quick test drive here. Just to see if there's any changes that are noticeable. So first gear, kind of here. the shutter is still there, the 1-2 shutter. That's what I like to call it. Seems a little bit better, but I mean, it's super hard to tell. And I don't know if it's related, but there's also like a shaking at a certain mile an hour. Like right at 80, the whole body will shake. And I've kind of ruled out the wheel balancing. I've ruled out just a bunch of different things. The drive shaft, the motor mounts were already done. So yeah, I'm kind of confused on that situation. I thought it could be something with the transmission, but it was replaced. I just don't want to keep like guessing at what it could be. I guess the next step is to get it on like a lift or something and see if you can visually see anything shaking. So let's do it again. So 0, first gear. Yeah, there's just like a thumping kind of right when it shifts from that 1 to 2. And obviously first thing you'd think of would be drive shaft, so I did that too. We'll see if it goes away after it gets warmed up a little bit. Maybe a little better, but if you put a cup of water or a bottle of water on the center console, you'll see it kind of shaking. So I don't know. Transmission fluid, we did about 5 quarts, so I guess consider that a success. Fluid's a little bit cleaner. Whether or not it did anything for the other issues, I don't know. But 124,576 miles on it. Everything's still good with the control arms, all the suspension stuff, the air struts, all that's fine. So happy to report just factory stuff. Still that 2013 to 2017 revision on some of those arms. That's all good. And the car, I go back and forth every time I drive this in the 430, and you know, this car is just almost like a cockpit. You're seated lower, everything is more insulated, and it's better car interior and driver comfort wise, but at the expense of what? At the expense of the mechanical faults and the expense of how much it costs to fix this car when you need to maintain it. So if they could combine the 430 and the 460, man, that would be kind of the ultimate car. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how your cars are going. And until the next video, I got something super cool coming. I don't know if this video is going to come out before or after it, but you'll see on the channel. I'm super excited for this new thing. So see ya.